Hello and welcome to a special live event here on the Big Rican on Sports podcast. I am your host. I am the Big Rican, and I am here with my good friend Jim Cornetti, JC Blue Note himself, to introduce to you the first ever episode of Big Rican on Sports presents the Wise Guys Sports Show. It's a little take on the website we had when we were in college. However, I'm not going to use the other word because I have little kids that watch and listen to this, so I'm not going to do that. So tonight's episode's title is What's in the Box?
What's in the box?
A reference to a great film from the late 90s, Seven. Of course, Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, Kevin Spacey. Great movie, but there's a reason for that. See, I got a message from my co-host here, who will be my co-host for this show each month. We're trying to do this once a month and hit on different topics in different sports. So there was a great moment a few days ago when I get a message from my buddy. He goes, I need your address. I'm like, the hell? So I get a box the other day, which I just cut the seal off of it just now as we were waiting. I have not opened this. I have not seen it. Jim had a hat made with the Big Rican logo on it. So where'd you get it done at again?
Lids and first off.
Oh, that's killer. That's killer. I like that. That's your logo.
47 doesn't make bad stuff.
No, they don't. And the funny thing is, 47, the 7 line, the Mets Lunatic Fringe fan group that I'm in, all their stuff is 47 too.
I just got my first scrum tee because I'm a proud member of the Bills Mafia. I got a Bills Mafia shirt, God. Most comfortable shirt I've ever worn. And so I'm thinking to myself, do I not wear jerseys anymore? Do I just start wearing 47 stuff?
Wow. That is cool, man. Thank you so much. That is awesome.
Flex and everything.
Phenomenal.
They didn't have any perfect 47 stretch, but a little caveat to you guys out there. Number one, Mike and I have actually been trying to put together the Wise Guys Sports Network, or whatever we're calling it. We've been trying to do this now for 20 years. We always thought about it. You guys got a little glimpse of it about 6 weeks ago.
Was it that long ago already?
What's that? Yeah.
Was it that long ago?
Yep. It's I graduated Tri-C in 01 or 2000.
And I moved back here. I didn't go to graduation, but I finished my degree in 2000 as well.
The reason why there's nothing else on the side of that, Mike, is number one, I didn't know how it was going to work with the stretch in the back in terms of the stitching. Number two, there would not have been enough time to get it out to you in time for tonight.
Oh, that's no problem.
Because what has to happen is you have to take the logo, send it to them. It takes 3 days to digitize it to where they can actually stitch it. And they had a backlog on there. And third, I kind of had a feeling that we were going to put the Wise Guys Sports Network together. So when you come back in town next, I'm going to take that from you, and then Wise Guys, I'm going to have a secondary logo put on our brims.
Nice. We'll come up with that together off the air.
Yep.
So we've been talking today over Facebook Messenger. We want to get into a few different topics, and we're not going to go like we did last time. The kid was up all night last night.
Yeah, it's you got the Buckeyes in the background. Little hint to you guys. We were talking for a minute before we came on. I got my Blues home opener. Repping my guys here. It's I got the Seattle Kraken first ever home game tonight. So
nice.
We're not going to go an hour and a half as we did last time.
No, and the fact that it's live too. It's I got to, when I'm done here, I'll post the audio to the different spots. So let's dive into this. And obviously this is awesome, dude. Thank you so much. This is
You're
so
very
cool.
Dude, we've been friends. We've been very good friends for 25 years. It's the least I can do, buddy.
I appreciate it. You're a good man. So speaking of things 25 years in the making, let's talk about the status of the Browns franchise quarterback. Let's dive right into Baker Mayfield, because it feels like we've been waiting a lot longer than 25 years for Baker Mayfield now, doesn't it?
First quarterback, 2020, first quarterback since Bernie to start all 16 games in a season.
Yeah, and he did it in back-to-back years, because he did it in 2019 as well when they were hot garbage. So here was my issue with Baker's injury. I firmly believe they need to shut him down.
You know what? I wrote these notes after I got off the phone with you.
Okay.
First things first, Baker needs to be shut down.
I agree.
Immediately.
Here's the thing. They're going to sign him long term. All the hyperbole coming out of Bristol is garbage. Let's start right there. It's garbage. Because
it's Bristol.
You know what? So let me ask you that question. And you wanted me to toss you this off the cuff. So here's pretty off the cuff. It's off the top.
You got it. I told you. Let's have it. Because guys,
you're a journalism guy.
Yeah, it's for those of you who don't know and haven't been to the blog yet, I was a professional journalist back at Cleveland State. I was on the student newspaper, but I was actually getting paid for it because whenever you go to college and you know this full well, there's the campus newspaper that you take for a class, but some schools actually have an independent newspaper. So we got all of our own press releases, we booked all of our own events, we bought all of our own equipment. All the university did was give us an advisor. We actually didn't even have a budget because we basically had our own. We put all of our stuff together by ourselves. They just gave us a room to be able to put that together with. So I was technically a professional for 4 years. And
don't even do this, because with the level of writing that came out of that, because I didn't read much of your stuff because I had just moved back here and was inundated, from within a year of moving back here, it was baby, marriage, whole 9 yards.
Right.
So I didn't read a lot of your stuff, but I did read it when I was in school. Especially with, every year Cleveland would get the first round of the NCAA tournament at the Convocation Center, at the arena, or whoever. So you read that publication, and it was very, very good. So having said that, what burns your rear end more? The fact that ESPN has fallen off from what it was when we were kids. Now we're talking The Big Show, Stuart and Rich, Dan Patrick, Berman, those guys who actually made ESPN.
Yep.
Exactly. To the hot take, I don't know what I'm talking about, let's give Rob Ninkovich a job. Pain in the rear end place it is today. What's the worst thing coming out of there besides Stephen A. Smith?
Where to begin? I'm an ESPN. Since the last time that we hooked up, I just signed up for ESPN Plus for one reason and one reason only: the NHL. That's it. That's the only reason. I tell you this much: CBS Sports HQ, even though they work in a lot of betting, is a lot more reputable than Bristol right now. And CBS
I get
Sports
most of my stuff from Pat McAfee, not going to lie.
What's that?
I get most of my stuff from Pat McAfee, not going to lie.
Yeah. It's you look at it, all the guys who left that network have gone on and done other things, and it's even more entertaining. The Rich Eisen show is one of the most entertaining shows out there. The Dan Patrick show is probably one of the best shows out there. And you notice both of those are Comcast properties now.
Yeah.
It's the Disney. I think the problem with Bristol right now is it's the Disney influence, and that's why I'm actually only for ESPN Plus as opposed to the entire Disney bundle, because there's nothing else on it I want to watch. But it's, they know that the market is now saturated with your Fox Sports now essentially your Bally Sports. CBS has got their own thing and all of your local regional networks. So basically they think that their stuff doesn't stink. And it's, it used to be when they used to get analysts, they were former Hall of Famers or they would actually get the prime guy whose season ended early. Now they're, Dan Orlovsky. Really?
Hold on.
Whose biggest highlight was running out of the end zone on a 4th down for a winless Lions team.
I'm going to interrupt you there about Orlovsky because their actual list of analysts.
Sorry, Blues just scored.
That's right. It's 23-7 Ohio State. They just got a safety on a punt. So having said that, and I agree with you. Now, Orlovsky, I will say this. As a Browns fan, he's a Baker lover. So Orlovsky gets a little bit of a pass with me for my fandom. But the other thing is this. If you run down, and this is where it really bothers me. Jim, what was the first major sporting event you watched on ESPN?
Monday Night Football.
Which was ABC until a handful of years ago.
You know what? Yeah, I always remember watching hockey and basketball on ESPN.
How about Sunday Night Baseball with John Miller and Joe Morgan?
Yeah. It's I think probably and you're right about that. It's certainly not the first one that I remember watching on ESPN, but it's one of the ones that sticks in my mind. It's because we didn't actually get cable until midway through, until you and I were midway through high school, was the Indians that 14-run comeback against the Mariners.
Oh, yep.
Which was a Sunday night game. But it was always baseball, and it was always the NHL and ESPN, which is why I'm so nostalgic that they're back on ESPN now. And again, the only reason they're getting $7 a month from me.
Well, they're getting. I got the bundle because I got Disney Plus, being the Marvel guy, and I got the baby who watches the Spider-Man cartoon, which is great. We have Hulu. If you don't watch Letterkenny, you need to.
I used to be on Hulu. I'm not anymore. It's I've got so many other streaming things going now.
You need to watch Letterkenny.
That's what I've been told. That's what I have been told.
I will send you a video. And then, of course, ESPN Plus, which the biggest attraction now for me for that is the cocaine-fueled Mets biopic they just did very recently on 30 for 30. But having said that, if you run down the list of analysts that sit in studios, they're all football players or football coaches.
Yeah.
There is no representation outside of the NFL. They have become NFL Network Part 2, and Stephen A. runs his mouth. So is it the hot takes that bother you, or is it the lack of actual journalism that bothers you?
Quite honestly, both, because the only time that you see for all of their talking head shows, you're right. It's all football guys. There's no baseball analysts unless it's a baseball show. The NHL right now, what you remember watching those games? You remember watching the NHL on ESPN. Who are the two guys that three people that they always had? It was Linda Cohn, Bucci, Steve Levy, and Barry Melrose.
And Barry Melrose. I was going to say Bucci Gross toward the end, but at the beginning when they started doing it,
calling games. Cohn is a studio analyst. Levy called the Sabres game last night because they're doing like 75 ESPN Plus exclusive that aren't like tied into the local regional thing or a national thing. So he was calling a game. First of all, wasn't very good.
You think that's out of practice for him?
I'd say so, but then again, he also calls other things. But Melrose in the studio, Cohn in the studio, and then they've got Levy and Booch, calling games. It's not like when we were growing up where they had, Chicken Parm, Ray Ferraro. But I mean, he's gone to everything else. But it's, you don't have all of their other guys moved over to NBC or Fox or anything. But it's not like how it used to be with all of their coverages. If you look at it as well, it's because all of their other guys, with how watered down the market is now, you've got guys who show up on ESPN who are also freelancing for Fox or CBS as well. So it's the pure lack of diversity, but it's also the watered down market, I think.
Okay. My whole thing is that, and you're more the hockey guy, and we all know, big surprise, Puerto Rican kid, more the baseball guy. Can I tell you that when the Mets are on Sunday Night Baseball, I try and link up the MLB app with what's on the TV to listen to Howie Rose, because Vasgersian and A-Rod are just that absolutely terrible.
I go all the way back to my mother's father, who I was, who I never really saw eye to eye with. But the only thing that he would always do is every time we would get together for a Browns game, the TV sound goes off and the radio sound goes on. And this was back in the 80s. And I will still do that today. I'd rather listen to Jim Donovan and Doug Deacon and also be either one play behind or one play ahead rather than listen to the CBS guys, for that, because it's let's be honest, Donovan and Deacon are two of the most unbiased and they're two of the best in the business.
I will say that about the broadcast teams for all of Cleveland, because even though I was just going through my Facebook memories today, we lost Fred McLeod 3 years ago today.
Yeah.
It was the first game since he passed. But John Michael and AC do great when they do it, and they're Cavs homers to a point, but they're not Cavs homers over the top.
Remember, John Michael's a hockey guy. He was calling Monsters games, and then when Fred passed, he actually took over the spot.
Because he was doing the Cavs radio games, because I used to get the NBA radio thing years ago, and we were talking about being a fair weather fan. Listen, my favorite player is Bobby Sura. We'll just go there. And the jersey in my closet is Larry Nance. So that's why I'm upset. And by the way, little preview, next month's Wise Guys show will be a Cleveland Cavaliers show. So yeah, it bugs me, and I do that now. It's just they've gotten so terrible, and the Monday Night Football games are almost unwatchable.
Well, it's also because the way that they scheduled the Thursday night game is even a better matchup week to week than the Monday Night Football game.
I like Buck and Troy Aikman though too.
It's I don't understand, and it's not even because I'm a St. Louis homer. With this and the fact that his dad called Cardinals games for 50 years, but I have no problem with Joe Buck. He's phenomenal.
He is, when you think about the soundtrack
Except
of baseball.
For his lust for Kyle Schwarber.
Listen, I'm that way about Keith Hernandez.
I'll give you that.
But it's in all honesty, it's ESPN has become unwatchable. I have lovingly started calling them ESECP NFL.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, that's all they talk about is how wonderful the SEC is and how the NFL is covered 24/7, 365 on that network.
And also keep in mind that the SEC network is a division of that. But here's
so is ACC.
I was just actually bring up. It's like, I literally 20 minutes before we went on air, I just posted a blog about how how I think the best quarterback in college football right now, and we're going to get into that here a little bit later, is the kid from Pittsburgh. But people aren't talking about it because
he's from Pittsburgh.
Because number one, he's from Pitt, and then you look at your two division leaders in the ACC right now. It's Pitt and Wake Forest. It's not Clemson. It's not Miami.
Wake is having a good year.
It's damn sure not Florida State. Yeah, Pitt's 6-1. Wake Forest is 6-0. Who the hell would have thought that? But again, we'll get back to that in when we talk about the CFP.
Real quick, you brought it up. Did you see the final score in the Wake game today?
Yeah, I did.
Did anybody play defense in that game?
Probably about as much as actually have played for the Browns in the last 3 games.
All right, so let's go there.
With the exception of this week, of course.
And with the exception of Myles Garrett getting held on every single play.
Sorry,
that's a beautiful pass. Touchdown, Ohio State. Chris Olave in the back of the end zone with a toe tap.
Blue shorthanded goal, 2-1.
Nice. It's 30-7. Ohio State already.
We knew that Indiana was going to take a step back.
Well, especially with the Penix injury. So let's get into the Cleveland Browns, and let's get into a 4-3 team that you and I both feel is better than this, that has been decimated by injury. And when I say decimated, do you know last night or 2 nights ago when they beat Denver, 88% of their offensive output was on the bench with injury.
Yeah.
Between Baker, Chubb, Hunt.
They have more players on injured reserve than any team in football, and it's not second line guys. It's 4 starters. It's 4 starters.
Including Jack Conklin, a very important right tackle on the best offensive line in the game.
Yeah.
So let's dive into Thursday night just for a couple of minutes. And I want to do this first and give it a little tip of the cap here. D'Ernest Johnson was an absolute monster on Thursday night.
I actually was singing his praises last year with him as well, of how capable he is. And kudos to them for actually deciding to keep him as a 4th back on the roster, to where it was concerning if he was going to get cut or Kaderil Hodge was going to get cut or a couple of other guys. And just because you know that how deep this team is in the backfield and how well they can run the ball with that. It's, I actually think the Browns right now, let me go back to Baker here for 1 second. The thing with Baker is that people got to realize that the injury is not going to get worse physically if he continues to play through this, but it's going to get worse in the long term, because then you're starting to talk about possibly injuring the rotator cuff, breaking that shoulder bone, which is actually going to require surgery on top of the labrum. He actually would have to change his mechanics, and that's where you go from a 4 to 6 week injury to a 2 to 3 month with surgery and recovery to him missing 18 months. It's not the same equivalent as the Alex Smith injury, but in terms of the detriment that it has on their career, it is.
I agree with you, and that's why I think Baker needs to be shut down. Listen, I love Baker Mayfield. I said to my parents the night he was drafted, I was on the phone with my sister, and I said, if anybody's got the set, I said something else, to win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, if they can build around him, is this guy. And listen, they were a bad call from the AFC Championship game last year.
Yeah.
And they're two defensive. And let's put this season, this 4-3 terrible team according to ESEC PNFL into perspective.
They could conceivably be 7-0.
Yeah, 2 defensive stops, my friend. 2 defensive stops. No, 6-1. Arizona clean their clock.
I don't. Let's put a pin in that. And let's come back to it when we talk about one of the other things you wanted me to discuss tonight.
Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute. But from what I've seen, eye test wise, there are 2 defensive stops from being 6-1, and those 2 wins are against a very good. I almost said San Diego team, LA Chargers team, and are we talking middle of the road now? Kansas City Chiefs team.
Yeah, it's you'd almost want to say it, because if you look at that, Denver's going to be Denver. Denver's overachieving, but if anyone thought that the Chargers and the Raiders, to dip into the whatever you call them, Berman, one of the few guys actually still, watchable on that network, even though he's 10 years past his prime and everything. And it's not the same without Tom Jackson, who, Booger McFarland needs to go. First of all, you got a guy named Booger on there.
First of all, the only guy named Booger we should talk about is the one from Revenge of the Nerds. Second of all,
or if you're an old school WWE wrestling fan, Bastion Booger, but that's not it.
We had a Bastion Booger reference.
8:52 Martinez breaks.
Done. So, anyways, I'm with you. It's what were we talking about? Oh, the Browns. Sorry. Yeah, Booger's horrible. But yeah, no, listen, they're a frustrating team to watch. I feel like the Odell Baker relationship thing is getting blown way out of proportion. What people aren't realizing when they're talking about this, and I don't know if you're on Twitter, I thought Mets Twitter was dark. Browns Twitter takes the cake.
Worse. Yeah.
Browns Twitter takes the cake. But what people aren't understanding is he is a true number 1, which means every single team is going to game plan for Odell Beckham.
But right now, he's a $15 million decoy.
If a $15 million decoy gets him deep into the playoffs, you're going to take it. I'm not saying I don't have a problem with it, but I'm saying if a $15 million decoy takes you deep in the playoffs, you're not going to have an issue with it.
Well, it's also because I was at the last time we talked, I told you I was going to the home opener. So I was there when Baker went down. I'm not saying you could have heard a pin drop, but where our seats were, we're near the dog pound. I could have probably heard people talking on the other end of the open end of the stadium, on the other end, as quiet as that place got when he ran off the field. When he came back, you could definitely hear, something, things start to come back. But the reason why I think this team right now hinges on Baker as opposed to anything else is, yeah, he's trying to play through the injury, but you've got Case Keenum, who's a 33-year-old, very, very capable backup, and he's also making $7 million a year. But, and again, you're not a hockey guy, but maybe being a New Yorker, you might have heard something about this. What I'm equating the thing with Baker saying that he wants to play through this and how they need to shut him down because the whole season right now hinges on this. It's like what the Buffalo Sabres are doing with the Jack Eichel situation. Eichel is the face of the Buffalo franchise. He's 24 years old. He's only a year or two younger than Baker. He was taken second overall a couple of years ago, and I want to say the guy that was taken ahead of him was a certain guy that everyone in your audience has probably heard of named Connor McDavid. Yeah. And Eichel hurt himself midway through last season in the, with everything with the COVID. He wants to get he's got a neck injury, so he wants to do artificial disc replacement surgery, which has never been done on a hockey player before. The Sabres don't want him to get the surgery. It's a whole standstill where they've been talking about trading Eichel the whole offseason. It's a detriment to the team. They tried to blow the whole thing up. They sold off two of their other best players for a bunch of draft picks, but it's a hindrance because now the Sabres had 3 home games in the first week of the season. They never drew more than 8,000 fans to the first 3 home games of the season, and KeyBank Center holds 17.
That's odd for a Buffalo. That's odd for a Buffalo team.
But yeah, Baker goes out for the rest of the year. You also got to keep in mind that if he's going to be playing through this, he's not just playing to be able to try and keep them competitive, but he's trying. I think it's also because you look at the offense. The offense never changed from 2020 at all. Everyone's back. The only intangible that got plucked out or put in was Dimitri Felton,
and Schwartz to some level.
Yeah, who are rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the defense, though. You've got basically an entire revamped secondary. And you've got, with the exception of Denzel and Greedy, you've either got guys who are in their first year there or on a ton of 1-year deals. Yeah. And I think the more successful that they've got a better chance with Baker at 100% of making a deep run to where these guys up for 2-3 year extensions if they want to, as opposed to these 1-year deals. Because if all of these guys leave, if they're only a 6-win team the rest of the year with the tough part of their schedule coming up, really after the Pittsburgh game, because I don't think Pittsburgh is really that much competition anymore because Roethlisberger can't throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field anymore. And they still have no running game and Juju out for the year. Go after them. But you'd actually have to rebuild, with the exception of Miles, Taki, and JOK once he comes back off of injury. You would have to rebuild that entire front 7.
Yeah, I would actually re-sign Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, I would actually re-sign Jadeveon Clowney. He has been exactly what we thought he would be, and that is a guy that will take some pressure off Miles as far as being a focal point. So let's dive into the big topic of the night, and let's talk about Mr. Myles Garrett, who leads the league in sacks, even though he gets choked out, he gets tackled, he gets, I don't know, there's words I want to say, but I won't say on the air. Violated is the one I'll use. So I'm asking this very seriously. Do the NFL go to Home Depot on a Sunday morning and find 5 dudes who don't know where the screws are to be the referees in these games?
Your lips to whatever deity you believe in, ears.
That dude can't help them. The egregious hold where the Denver O-lineman had him by the throat, and he still made the play and ran Teddy Bridgewater down.
Here's why I think the Arizona game was not as much of a blowout as where I think it was conceivably winnable. I shut the game off when they went down 14-0 in that first quarter. Here's why. Those 4 penalties on that second drive, the two garbage pass interference against Denzel Ward, and I'll actually say, and let me actually stop right there for a second. Denzel Ward, don't franchise him, don't extend him, gone. I'm sorry. I know he's a Buckeye, gone.
He's also Nordonia.
He stubs a toe and misses a month. You don't pay a guy who doesn't stay on the field, and when he's there, he's either getting an OPI or he's getting burned. He made a couple of great plays and had a great rookie season until he got hurt. When he's there, he can be great. But the problem is he's not reliable. Gone.
I see your point. I wouldn't, as I look up, and the Doug Deacon Baker Mayfield Progressive commercials on my TV right now. So, and I understand your point. I would not get rid of him because of he is productive when he's on the field, but you're talking Nordonia to Ohio State to Cleveland. I feel they made a mistake letting Brian Hoyer go years ago.
I'm sorry, but that's it. I love you to death, man, but that's actually that's local boy homerism right there. That's Brady Quinn, Montreal. That screams Brady Quinn. We can't let him go because he's a local boy.
I didn't want Brady Quinn at all.
Same instance. You see where I'm going with this, though.
Yeah, I do. Whatever.
Truth hurts, don't it?
You know what? It doesn't, because you're not wrong. If you were saying this just because you didn't like the guy, because of where he went to college, that's one thing. But you're not wrong. And if he has a good second half of the year, I think you can retain him. Because that is a strong secondary when it's together with Greedy and Newsom, who's been great. JOK playing that, wow.
This is
steal of the draft.
I think him going on IR is going to cost him Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I actually had him picked for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. But let's get back to the Zebras here for a minute. I wanted to ping, I told you in the lead up to, when you actually approached me with this last night, I got back to you this morning. Let me throw an idea. Let me pitch something out there and let me see what you think about this, because I've been thinking about this for a couple of years, and I'm finally glad I got a platform to be able to throw it out there with your audience. You realize the NFL is the only one of the big four leagues that does not have a major infraction warning rule. And let me say this.
I didn't know that.
You throw at a guy in baseball, what happens?
You get warned. Exactly.
You do it again, what happens?
You're gone. So is your manager.
Exactly. Basketball, flagrant fouls, technical fouls. What happens when you get one?
You get a second one, you're gone.
Exactly. The NHL, you get two major penalties in a game. What do?
You're gone.
You're gone. Why does football not do this with personal fouls?
Never mind personal fouls.
Which is the equivalent of a major penalty?
Agreed. And I think you can't do that in the NFL with personal fouls because of the ticky-tack quarterback rules.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up.
Roughing the passer on Kyler Murray was because he's 4'6" and the guy was 6'5" that hit him.
I'm glad
he didn't even hit him. He put his hands up.
I'm glad you brought that up. Pitch number 2. Not only go to the two-strike system, a la the technical foul, or I can't believe I'm using the analogy, the yellow card, red card analogy, which we all know soccer's not a sport. I'm not saying go to it, but you know where I'm leading with it.
Yeah.
Because at least the college game has got something right. Targeting, automatic. It's basically the equivalent of a red card. It's a personal foul, and you're gone if it's found.
Yeah, but that's just it. They call it, and then they review it.
That's exactly what they need to do. That's the second part of my proposal. All personal foul penalties should be subject to a mandatory 30-second booth review right then and there. You're telling me that all of the cameras that they have access to, whether it's a Sunday afternoon game that nobody gives a damn about, ESPN or NFL Network, with all the cameras that they have, if somebody scores a touchdown and they're like, their offensive lineman is like picking them up and slapping them on the head and everything, and then 45 seconds later, that's in the slow-mo montage as they're going to commercial, you're telling me that they couldn't look at a review in the exact same time period of a personal foul and determine whether or not it's warranted or if it was a dive?
They absolutely should. And let me expand on that one step further. And let's go back to last year's AFC divisional game in Kansas City between the Browns and the Chiefs. Every turnover is reviewed.
Yes.
Why can you not call a penalty when an illegal play caused the turnover?
Precisely.
That was a helmet-to-helmet hit.
You review, yeah. And what actually happened to the idea of we do the review to make sure we get the call right, but then we find an infraction in the review, and that doesn't get called anymore.
See, and I'm not so much talking about that, because you could call holding on every play if you really want.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah. But
my point is this.
You're reviewing whether or not Higgins fumbled the ball through the end zone, but yet it's an obvious helmet to helmet, and why that wasn't actually called as well, to where the ball gets put down at the 1 yard line on the personal foul, or at least half the distance to the goal, because it's a continuation.
And that call, in my opinion, is the difference between the city of Cleveland still standing today and it falling, because they would have beaten the snot out of the Buffalo Bills the next week.
What's the analogy we actually always said as Clevelanders? When the Cavs win the title, that's going to be the party because it's in the middle of summer. When the Indians win, it's going to be the middle of fall. Everyone's going to be ecstatic because this was always a baseball town before anything else. When the Browns win the Super Bowl, that's when you're going to be able to stand on the 480 bridge and watch the city burn 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
The other proposal is, and we'll never see this, but it needs to happen. DPIs, 15 yards. No more of this spot foul crap.
I would say 10, and here's why. For every DPI, there's an OPI that's not called.
Yeah. Hence them getting hosed against the Chargers on that.
Yeah. Oh, when you have that, you know what? I am going to say an off-color word in this one. When you have that schmuck from Barstool, Portnoy, actually on your side about a call, you know it's egregious, because he's an idiot. And it's not just because where he went to college. It's also because of just how stupid he is.
Have you seen those? I think I've been putting them on my Facebook feed. And I know you and I aren't linked up on Twitter. Have you seen some of those videos I've retweeted by that female reporter, like those jump cut things where she's doing like the NFL weekly meetings that I've been posting in the last few weeks? The really young, pretty blonde girl, where she looks like she had one where she was grabbing the jersey and everything. He's like, this isn't being called. This isn't being called. She went in on it.
And she's great. What's your Twitter handle?
You're looking at it.
JC Blue Note 24.
That's everything.
Hold on. Well, you got a new follower.
And you're gonna have one here in about 25 minutes after I shrink the window down.
Yeah, right. So yeah, they're also, I think, the only ones that don't have professional referees.
Yeah, here's the thing is that we've seen how bad it's gotten over the last couple of years, really since they went on strike a few years ago. We're 6 weeks and one game into this season, and all the fans are back and everything, and there's so much parity out there. Have you ever seen it as bad as it is now and realized that we're only a third of the way through this season?
I can't even begin to tell you how much it bothers me, and here's why. I'm the fan of a team that has waited this long to be this good.
And for those of you wondering, yes, that's the Browns, not the Jets.
I feel bad for Zach Wilson. And I feel bad for Zach Wilson because Sam Darnold's going to win Comeback Player of the Year and freaking.
You know, I was looking for a way to link up Darnold and Wilson on that and defend, defend the former while crushing the latter. It's I feel bad for the position that Zach Wilson's been in. For him personally, I don't.
Mm-mm. No, because that should be Justin Fields. He's as much as I'll introduce you to my buddy Alex from Chicago. He's not really pumped with the Chicago Bears, but he loves him some Justin Fields.
Yeah, but if he sees what I'm wearing, he's gonna love me.
His dad's a St. Louis guy.
Okay, he's forgiven.
Hey, it's not going to focus. 37-7. It was 7-7 with a minute left in the first quarter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hammer them tonight like you'd think I would, but it's 3-1. Okay.
I love live television.
I look up for 1 second. David Perron's putting it in the back of the net.
Nice.
Although I hate the friggin' jerseys that they're wearing. They're wearing those god awful, like lighter blue 1967 throwbacks. Yeah. If
like the Cardinals blue?
No, it's like the Blues had a lighter shade of blue. Like it's something like that. Yeah, something. It's kind of that.
My wife had this made when I first did the show.
It's almost like it's almost like that. I mean, me being colorblind and everything, but it's it's almost kind of like that, or like an Oklahoma City blue.
Oh,
although on TV it's picking up a little bit darker. But I can actually tell like the helmets and the jerseys are two different colors. If Tool taught us anything, it's F retro anything.
We have had a Shit Booger reference and a Tool reference. Oh, God. Okay, hold on.
One of my favorite lines from the Alan Cox show is, I just got into Tool a couple of days ago. I'm now officially 2 songs through it.
Yeah, right. All right. I'm going to go old school with this one real quick, and I'm going to inject a new topic. Did you see who's doing the halftime show for the Super Bowl?
I did, and if it's not Metallica, who the hell cares?
Okay, but they're in Inglewood, California, okay? I'm sorry, 44-7. And you're telling me a bunch of people in Inglewood, California, and I'm going to play a song. A bunch of people in Inglewood, California, it goes dark, and then you hear this. Yeah, nigga. You hear Dre come on with that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool, but...
Or the first beats at Lose Yourself.
Yeah, but the thing is as progressive as the NFL is getting with their players, their broadcast and everything, get some more. I mean, really, Bruno Mars was the last time I actually thought that they had like somebody current and relevant.
That was my favorite one, and that was because of the show he put on. And my whole thing was, how is the kid from Hawaii going to perform in the middle of Jersey in the cold?
Right.
And he was awesome. Although
I will actually say, I mean, when you're watching wrestling shows and everything, there's what they call the bathroom or the refreshments match. That's what the Super Bowl halftime is turned into anymore.
Yeah, I first of all, I think it's cool because the older fans are going to get what they want finally. Because we're the older fans now. So, speaking of old and players, let's talk about an old Cleveland Cavalier real quick. Let's talk about Kyrie.
I've been waiting on this. This was the guy, ladies and gents, this was not part of the format. Let's go.
Let me be the first one to say this, and I don't know if you're the same as me, and I will go back to the ESPN conversation and say these idiots who said that LeBron, they scored again?
Yep.
That said the Cavaliers would not have won that title or only won it because of that shot by Kyrie Irving that went to homeboy's head. And he has gotten stupider by the minute. I don't know how he got into Duke outside of playing basketball because he's an idiot.
Although, somebody threw us, I saw on Twitter, somebody threw a meme out there today. Is you realize that LeBron, when Michael won all 6 of his titles, how they just came out with the NBA All 75 team within the last 24 hours. Michael won all 6 of his titles with Scotty or Rodman, and those guys both made the All 75 team in addition to Michael. When LeBron beat the greatest regular season team of all time, no other player on that roster was on that All 75.
All right, I'm going to have you go back to, and Alabama's losing. I'm going to have you, I want you to watch an episode. It was the Big Rican Birthday Bash. On my 42nd birthday, I actually did the LeBron-Michael debate. And I made this point. Michael never won a title. College, Olympic, pros, without a Hall of Fame head coach and a Hall of Fame running mate.
He had Worthy. Yep. He had the dream team. He had Dean. Yeah.
He had Bobby Knight on the 84 squad when he won the gold medal in LA.
Yep.
He had Phil Jackson. He had Scottie Pippen. There were only 2 sets of current teammates on the All 50 team 25 years ago. It was him and Scottie and Stockton and Malone.
Yep.
That were active. So that's the point I made with that thing was that, listen, you can make the argument for either one of these guys to be the greatest of all time. But at the end of the day, when LeBron is all said and done, the only stat Michael Jordan will have better than him is free throw shooting.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to catch his 6 titles.
Titles are team things.
Yeah.
I don't ring count. I don't put into this. I am talking about Michael Jordan.
Because if we did, we knew who the greatest player of all time would be.
Yeah, because by the way people do that, Robert Horry is better than Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So is James Jones.
Yeah. Big Shot Bob's got 7 rings.
Yeah.
And the people who put Kobe in that argument, by the way, he wasn't the best player on his first 3 titles. That was Shaq.
No, he wasn't. But I can't believe it's actually been a year.
Oh, my God.
And I'm a Celtics fan through and through. I mean, I don't watch much of the NBA anymore because the super teams took all the fun out of it, even with, our Cavs winning a title 5 years ago. But I still think the '86 Celtics. It's my dad's influence because my dad was my dad's 2 favorite players of all time, Bird, Walton, and the fact that Bill Walton was coming off the bench as a 6th man. I still think that '86 team was the greatest team of all time.
Only rivaled by the Lakers teams of Worthy, Magic, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with Michael Cooper and
all 6 of those. If you look at that '86 Celtics team,
they're all in the Hall of Fame.
Hill, Parrish, Ainge, even though as a GM, and DJ, the coach, and the 6th man, all in the Hall of Fame. No other team can say that.
No, they can't. So let's go back to Kyrie. And let me say 2 things. One, I have never been happier for a player from my current team to get out of Dodge when he forced his way out.
Yep.
Because it was just ego and stupidity.
Yeah.
And I found it very funny that same year, the 2 teams played in the NBA conference finals without him.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So I understand, and I'm not going to get into why he's sitting because that's everybody. I mean, you did the great article about the coach from Washington State, which I thought was very well written, by the way. But how stupid do you have to be?
This is all. Remember, he thinks the world's flat. He's. I know you actually touched on the article, but I made a comment in there, and I don't care who I offend with this. Who's more buying into their own delusions of grandeur, him or the former president?
Kyrie? 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Exactly.
It blows my mind. And that team, put together the way they were. James Harden did some shady stuff to get out of Houston. I'll always hate Kevin Durant. Because we would have had 3 in a row had Durant not decided to be a little girl and chase rings.
I'm actually glad that you said that, because I was going to say something else that was going to get it bleeped.
By the way, my favorite shade moment ever thrown was when
John Cena at the ESPYs.
Wasn't John Cena, it was Peyton Manning next year when he said that team was so good, the girls' gymnastics team was so good, KD wouldn't start for him.
That's right, because I forgot about that one.
Cena's was funny.
Cena was good. Cena was good, but Cena's best line of shade was the 1.3 million people and still not one good quarterback at the Cavs parade.
He wasn't.
And then the very next year we get Baker.
Yeah. Oh my God! So we're pushing an hour. So I want to jump back to Baker, just Baker, real quick.
I think you also said you wanted to touch on the CFP real quick.
Yeah. First rankings come out, I think, next week.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your top 4 right now? Because I'm going to surprise you.
I'm going to say number 1, definitely Georgia, and I'm not putting these in any particular order. I think since he's in, the other 2 are so up in the air right now. Pittsburgh's not going to get there because the ACC is so down, and they've got so much ground to make up because they're only 23. Oklahoma needs a lot of work. I think with Penn State's officially out of it. I still think the only way the Buckeyes get in is if they run the table, and I'm not saying that as a hater, because you look at their schedule.
You're absolutely right.
They've lost to Oregon. And I don't know if you saw that game. That game was tied midway through the third, and then Oregon just opened up a can of whoop ass on UCLA, who's a damn good ball club.
They are.
But I don't think Oregon's got got enough left on their resume to get in. Ohio State, even if they run the table, the only quality win that's going to be on their schedule is going to be Michigan. And I don't think that's enough.
Michigan State's still undefeated.
Michigan, yeah, but also Michigan State has
Michigan next week.
Michigan State has the same predicament that Ohio State has. Their resume is not deep enough because of the fact that everyone else ahead of them has beaten themselves up and taken themselves out of the running to weaken their schedule.
Agreed. And my top 4 right now, I do have the Buckeyes in right now. This team reminds me of that 2014 team. Big win week 1 with a new quarterback. Lose to a team you should have beaten, Oregon, Virginia Tech, and then get consistently better as the season goes on.
Yeah, but the difference is I'm sorry to pop your balloon here, but really since that Oregon game, who have they played?
Same thing that year.
I get that, but
here's what they're going to have. They're going to have
Urban Meyer with one of the best teams in the country, and now you've got Ryan Day, who that defense is still not figured out. It's better than when the last time we talked 6 weeks ago, but it still needs a lot of work.
I agree with you. And here's where I think this is where it reminds me of that. That 2014 team needed that work on the offensive side of the ball. The defense wasn't the issue. JT Barrett was turning the ball over. They did not have a good running game until 3/4 of the way through that season. They're going to get a 1-loss ranked, 2-loss now. I'm sorry. Who's going to win the West?
Yeah. And really doesn't even matter.
If Iowa losing to Purdue screws Ohio State, I'm going to be mad.
And here's the other thing is that, guys, stop scoring. 5-1.
5-1?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 44 to 7.
And there's still 12:54 left in the second period. They're on pace for 10 tonight.
Nice.
Now, granted, the Kings suck. But I'll take it's I got my rally towel all set to go. It's
as long as that towel's not yellow, swing it as much as you want.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Thank you very much. But getting back to the top four, I think it's such a crapshoot. I think the Buckeyes have to run out. I think it's going to be Ohio State or Michigan. Whoever wins that game is going to get in. Because here's the thing: even if the Buckeyes run out, that one loss to Oregon is really going to hurt them, I think, because even if you need a really good showing in the Big Ten championship to get to basically put you over the top, it could be like when Penn State got the nod over them a few years ago. Even though the Buckeyes went to the conference championship game, it's because it was
Penn State went that year.
It was okay. I'm sorry. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of burnt out. I was going back over. I changed all the graphics on my blog, and I can't remember. I can't believe I even did that. I can't believe I don't even remember that, because that was one of the things that I changed. Was when I actually said Penn State deserved the nod the year that they got in. Was that it could be something that it could be like when they got Northwestern a couple of years ago and then ended up missing out, is because they had the resume, but the problem is winning the conference championship wasn't against enough of an opponent to vault you over somebody else.
I agree.
I got Oklahoma in that third right now because I think, the Pac-12 is going to do just enough, and that come from behind against Texas is going to sway a lot of voters, because at neutral field, and especially coming that far back that late, that fourth one, it's got to come down to Ohio State and Michigan. If they,
I am with you, and I don't think Harbaugh's got enough to beat them this year,
unless Michigan State surprises the hell out of all of us.
If Michigan State wins next week, because that's the big one. Next Saturday is both Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State. So the Eastern Division of the Big Ten is going to come down to next week and the middle of next month when Michigan State plays Ohio State. If Michigan State wins next week,
it's almost like the baseball playoffs. That's your play-in game, and then you got your conference champion. Then you got your LCS, and then you actually get to go to your major playoffs.
Yeah, and right now my top four is Georgia. It's Cincinnati. I would even put Cincinnati at 2. They have one of the most impressive wins of the year when they went to Notre Dame and won that game. I do have Ohio State in the top 4 from what I've seen. Because again, Michigan hasn't played anybody either. And I have Oklahoma in there at 4. I don't think a champion of the ACC gets in.
No
matter what happens. The chaos this year gets the Pac-12, Pac-10 champion, or Pac-12, whatever the hell they are now. The Pac-12 champion, not the ACC champ.
Right, and it's and I'm sorry, I got the feeling that the committee is going to screw Cincinnati, and I'm not saying by holding them out, but not by actually putting them at a 2. I got a feeling if they're going to slot them, they're going to actually move them to 4. Exactly. Because yes, they did go into South Bend and win. But here's also the other thing coming up with Cincinnati, and I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, is that the only real test on their schedule is in 2 weeks now against SMU, who's going to be another top 15 team, because they have to face Houston. So it could actually be 2 wins over top 15 opponents, and one of which on the road out of conference that's going to bolster for them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Cincinnati is the only dark horse that's going to get in. I also think Luke Fickell's going to get the USC job.
I also put this in the article. Why would he want to? Think about this. They're going to the Pac-12. They're going to the Big 12 in the next 18 months.
Yeah.
Why would he want to? He's got a gold mine there, and actually now that they're going to a Power 5 conference, it's only going to I'm not saying that he's going to steal every 5-star recruit from, it's almost like I'm rehashing the article now, but it's not like he's going to steal every recruit out of Columbus or everyone who's planning on going there. But how did the line go from the longest yard? We didn't get the whole chocolate bar, but we got the Hershey's Kiss.
Yeah, and they'll pull a couple of that thing that gets me is Mayan Williams is from Cincinnati. In 2 years, when they're in a Power 5, that top running back out of Cincinnati doesn't go to Ohio State; he goes to Cincinnati.
Right.
So we're going to wrap this up because we went 15 minutes longer than I wanted to. Oh, I'm tired. So, Jim, tell us about the blog. Tell us where you're going to end up or what's going on and what's coming soon.
Blog still hasn't changed. jcbluenote24.blogspot.com. Mike will probably have a link down in the description. Really, it kind of goes week to week. It's or day to day and everything. Just again, spent 7 hours between yesterday and today redoing all the graphics. It's although against my mother's wishes and somebody also, that we went to high school with, wanted her opinion on it. And it's since they look better dark, I decided to change them to light because everyone's got a light jersey and they just actually pop a little bit better. And white, all 4 leagues need to actually go back to wearing this white at home constantly. That's why they call them home whites. Really, my next one, I've got some things. I might actually start getting into some of the early NBA action. Hockey getting going here. The NFL's the NFL. There's a lot of college coming up. We got college basketball starting later on this week. We got our first rankings coming out. We got some big UFC fights coming out. So so I'm going to touch base on that. But again, jcbluenote24.blogspot.com. And I can't believe it's taken 20 years, but the Wise Guys Sports Reporter Network or whatever we're calling, it's back, baby, and we ain't going anywhere.
No, we're not. And I will say this, the next couple things coming from Big Rican, if I have time, I'm going to get the 2 guys I did the playoff preview with back on. We're going to do a quick World Series preview as one ticket has been punched by the Houston Astros. Dusty Baker becoming one of 6 managers, I think, to win a pennant in both leagues. The first since Jim Leland was the last one to do it with the Tigers after winning the 97 World Series with the Marlins, but we will stop there. The only guaranteed episode I can tell you right now for Big Rican on Sports is a live event on Black Friday where I will preview the 117th playing of the game between Ohio State and Michigan from Ann Arbor, Michigan the next day because Michigan punked out of last year's game.
Better you going live with that one than what I usually do on Black Friday, and that's drive around and drive around parking lots, not so much shopping, but just laughing at all the people standing in line.
I do the same thing. But it's a special event this year. I don't know if you heard, but at Big Ten Media Days, Jim Harbaugh said that he is going to beat Ohio State or die trying, and I am seriously toying with throwing Harbaugh awake. So
before we go, I actually said I was going to bring this up real quick. You threw something at me. I'm going to throw something at you. By the next time we get together, and I know you're on Long Island, you're on Eastern Long Island, and
I'm upstate. I'm in the mountains.
What's that?
I'm in the mountains. I know what you're throwing at me. I am about 2 to 2.5 hours from where you're going to talk about.
Okay. Very, very close to your Mets, and I know you get to some games over at City. I gotta ask, what do you actually think of the new UBS Arena that's being built there, where the Islanders are going to be moving?
The Islanders need to be on the island.
Which is, they actually need to. I mean, this is something, and the Islanders are very, very near and dear to my heart. They won their first Stanley Cup on my 2nd birthday. The Nassau Coliseum. They've been planning this for since we were in high school. They originally wanted to have the Nassau rebuilt with the Lighthouse Project, and then the city of Hempstead blocked it, and then the Barclays fiasco. And it's just so nice to be able to see, this state-of-the-art arena being built there is, and I mean, that's actually what's going to get me up to your neck of the woods, hopefully here in the next 18 months.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I'm not the big hockey guy. When I was a hockey guy, it was the Rangers because my dad's been a Ranger fan for forever. You know, and I will say this too about it. That Islander team is young. They are good. They are explosive.
Not out of the gate so far this year, but yeah, but also.
But what, 2 games?
Yeah, 3. And here's actually where this sucks because the arena's not finished yet. They don't open that arena until November 20th. The Islanders play their first 17 games on the road.
Yeah, but they got a big homestand after that.
Oh, it's, I think, between November 20th and I want to say maybe the end of January. I think they only played 3 road games in 2.5 months to make up.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. No, they belong on the island. I hope you do get to it. I hear it's going to be phenomenal.
I'd actually love to be able to get up there in late season. I'd say, hell, you and I can make a weekend out of it. We can actually hit late season Mets and then actually just drive 15 miles and go catch the Islanders at the new barn. That
would be cool. The hockey was the last live hockey game I went to was a Cleveland Lumberjacks game.
Yeah,
tells you how long ago that was.
I caught my first Sabres game about 4 years ago, first NHL game, and it's a great place to see a game. Although I will say, new bucket list, not only Enterprise Center to go see my Blues, but I would love to be able to get up to UBS. Apparently, this is also part of why I really want to see Seattle open their schedule tonight at Climate Pledge Arena, which those of you who don't know is the restructured Key Arena in Seattle. They ripped it down to the studs and rebuilt it. Amazon owns it and then put their naming rights on it. The entire ice system, the ice itself is all recycled rainwater from the roof. I've never heard of that before.
That's cool.
That is very cool.
That's cool. So let's end it there. Thank you very much. We will see you in November. We're going to do this once a month, the Wise Guy Sports Show here on Big Rican. I'll see you in November where we will get heavy into the Cleveland Cavaliers because I don't know about you, but I like the rebuild so far.
With the exception of one person, and it's the only person still left over from that championship team, and you guys can read between the lines.
Just say Kevin Love. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, Jim.
It's called burying the lead, Nezzy.
Don't bury the lead. He'll be gone by then. So I will talk to you in between. But again, thank you for the hat. I love this.
It's if you come up for the holidays, we'll have everything stitched up or I mean, I'll even look for a 47 in a stretch. I mean, these were test runs, and I can't believe how well they came out. So the next time they're going to be tripped out.
That'd be awesome. And we were going to come up for Thanksgiving, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to. But I will definitely let you know we're going to be in. So Big Rican, that's JC Blue Note. This is the Wise Guy Sports Show here on Big Rican on Sports. We will see you in a month. Take care.